Okay, good afternoon, folks, and we are back with episode number 6 of the Conscious Breath. This week we are going to move on to the 5 elements in conjunction with the 5 pranas, and also discuss a little bit the idea that prana is the thing that causes everything to move. So we have gone through a bunch of different practices over the past 5 weeks, and you can recap all of those practices by going back to the earlier episodes if you like. They're basic, they're simple, they're very easy access, and pretty much everyone can do them. So we'll give folks a minute or two to sign on, and then we will get started with our recap of what we spoke about last week. And then we'll move into this week's practices and the discussion for this week as well. Okay, so another minute or so, and then we will begin. The science of pranayama, which is what it is referred to in India, is a vast, vast topic. It's immense. There are many, many different ways of looking at prana and of pranayama, and different traditions have discussed it in different ways over thousands of years. We're looking at a synopsis of some of those views and some of those ways of practicing pranayama, and you'll find differences depending on who your teacher is or where you learn from. But some general things are always going to be the same, and then you'll see regional differences, just like food exists in countries all over the world, but there are regional differences in food wherever you happen to go. So you can look at pranayama and spiritual practices as the same way, that we're all trying to connect with spirit or connect with a knowing of who we are, what our purpose in life is, but there are going to be regional differences of how we do this. The names are going to be different, the practices will be different, but the intent for the most part is generally the same. Okay, so let's go into a recap from last week and what we talked about. Okay, so the first thing that we looked at last week was that pranayama is a neuromuscular training for the breath, the lungs, and the nervous system. Neuromuscular means to create patterns of communication, new patterns of communication between things. So we're looking at our nervous system and the muscular system. So when we look at breathing, why would we say muscular system when it comes to the breath? And one of the first reasons for this is our diaphragm, which is the breathing muscle, is made up of skeletal muscle. So it's skeletal tissue. So the diaphragm is a muscle. It's made out of skeletal muscle. It's going to move along with our musculature, and we're training it by directing how we want to breathe. So normally the breath is an unconscious mechanism or an automatic mechanism. We're breathing throughout the day, whether we think about it or not. But while we do these practices now together, or whenever you do pranayama, you are consciously breathing. So we're changing something from an automatic occurrence to a very conscious action. And that's why we're calling this series, of course, the conscious breath. So what we're doing is we're creating a very conscious neuromuscular pattern between our nervous system, that which is dictating the flow of the breath, our lungs and how they are expanding or receiving the breath, and the act of breathing itself. And by doing this, we begin to train our nervous system to respond to our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions in a new way. And we train ourselves to respond to the world around us in a new way as well, to become less reactive and more responsive, to be able to take a pause, take a step back, and observe things before making a judgment or performing an action. So prana, which means energy and also means breath, is also the same energy of the mind. So that breath and mind are linked together, and they're considered to be the same thing in the Hindu tradition and in all of the yogic traditions. So by controlling and consciously breathing, we begin to control and consciously use our mind as well in new types of ways. So we discussed all of this in earlier weeks. We also discussed last week how pranayama addresses the harmonious relationship between the functions of the autonomic nervous system. We have many different types of functions. So we can look at the example of food in relation to prana. We take nourishment into our body through the form of, say, food, but we have other types of nourishments as well. And the food comes in, we digest it, assimilate it, we spread that nourishment through the whole body, and then we let the waste be removed. And then all the nourishment that we have absorbed and assimilated, we use for acting in the world, living our lives, and all these types of things. So many of these functions, for example, digestion, assimilation, elimination, these are all automatic functions of the nervous system. And now with yoga, pranayama, we're trying again to make these things conscious. So in Western science, we will call these things the autonomic nervous system and all of the physiological functions. In the yogic systems, we're going to call these the 5 pranas. And we discussed these last week. These are prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana. And the prana basically would be incoming nourishment like the breath. Apana would be outgoing waste like our exhalation. Samana is the assimilation of the incoming nourishment. In the case of breathing, the breath will come into the lungs and the red blood cells will pick up that oxygen. It will distribute it through the whole body. That's called vyana, the distribution. So the samana is the picking up of oxygen by the red blood cells. Vyana is the distribution of it. Apana is the carbon dioxide coming back and being exhaled through the exhalation. And udana is all the things that we do with oxygen or do with that assimilated energy. We speak, we act, we operate and cooperate in the world in all sorts of different types of ways. So udana will be the outward expression. So these are the 5 pranas: incoming nourishment, outgoing waste, the assimilation of the incoming nourishment, the distribution of that nourishment, and how we use that nourishment to activate our lives. So we do these things all through the day. This is the sum total of our life. But now we want to be conscious about that. Okay, there are also 5 upa or smaller pranas. We haven't covered those yet, but we'll cover them in the coming weeks. And this week we're going to talk about the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space, and how they relate to the 5 pranas, and how they relate to spiritual practice in general. Okay, so that is our recap and our explanation of what we're going to talk about today. And now let's move into our initial practices. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do are the preparatory practices that we do each week. So please sit comfortably in a cross-legged position. You can be in a chair, on the floor, on a pillow on your floor. Even if you're sitting in a bed, that's fine. Close the eyes or gaze down towards your hands or the floor, and bring your awareness first to your breathing. And inhale and exhale a couple of long, slow breaths. Just becoming aware, becoming conscious that you are breathing. And if you can, see if you can just enjoy the act of breathing. Enjoy the sensation of the breath. Enjoy the experience of your breath. And then let's bring our hands to the belly. Place your right hand or your left hand right over your belly button, and then place your other hand directly on top of that one. So either the right or left hand is right on the belly button, and then your other hand is right on top of that one. Relax your belly so it presses out into your hands gently. And now you're going to keep your hands exactly where they are. And as you slowly exhale, you're going to feel your belly pull a little bit away from your hands. And as you inhale, the belly is going to relax back out into your hands. And as you exhale, the belly gently pulls away from your hands. As you inhale, the belly comes out into the hands. And as you exhale, the belly pulls back towards the spine. Do this a few times on your own. Inhaling gently and exhaling gently. And remember, your hands are not moving now. The only thing moving is the belly. Inhaling, the belly rests into the hands. Exhale, the belly pulls away from the hands. So you're basically sitting in a meditative position here. Enjoy the feeling of the fullness of the belly as it comes out into your hands. Okay, now we're going to bring our hands up onto our rib cage so you can feel your lower ribs with your hands. So my waist would be down here and my ribs are right up here. And as you inhale now, feel your ribs expanding out sideways into your hands. And as you exhale, feel the ribs coming back in, pressing them gently together. Even if you do a little bit of a pelvic tuck, you can sometimes feel your ribs moving more. So when you inhale, the ribs expand out to the sides. Exhale, the ribs come a little bit in. Inhale, expand the ribs out to the side. Exhale, the ribs come back in. So the ribs are expanding and contracting like the wings of a bird. Inhale, feel your back ribs moving a little, like you're breathing into your thumbs. Exhale, the ribs come down. If you want to even bring your hands a little further back so you feel your thumbs pressing on your back ribs, kind of near your kidney region. You can bring your thumbs towards the back of the body. See if you can breathe into your back ribs here. Remembering that we have more lung tissue in the back of the body than in the front. So if you can breathe in such a way, maybe you round your spine slightly, that you can breathe into the back ribs. This is very soothing for the kidneys. And we'll do one more of those. And exhaling. Okay, let your hands rest on the knees now. And we're going to do a pranayama that we're going to focus more on later. We're just going to do it 3 times now, where you're going to inhale, and you're going to exhale and make a humming sound in the back of your throat. Just a simple humming sound, like if you were going to say the sound, just like that, but we're going to extend that sound a little. So breathe in a long, comfortable inhale, and exhale, making a humming sound for as long as you comfortably can. Sending the sound out through the nose. And inhaling, sending the sound out through the nose and feeling the palate of the mouth vibrating. And one more time like that, inhale. And now as you inhale, breathe high into your nasal cavity like you're trying to smell the scent of a flower. And exhale, keep your awareness high in the nasal cavity. And one more time, breathe high up towards the olfactory nerves. And a relaxed exhale. Okay, sit quietly, meditative position for a moment. Okay, so if you need to straighten your legs out for a minute or move your body in any comfortable way, please go ahead and do so. We're going to do now about say 15 or so minute long practice. So you're going to get yourself comfortable and straighten the legs, stretch the body if you want to do a little twist one way or the other. Next week, we're going to do a few little gentle yoga poses from a seated position that help with the pranayama. So you can look forward to that next week as well. Okay, so coming back to sit now, we're going to begin this week's practice. This is what we're going to do. 8 minutes of resonance breathing. Last week, we did 6 minutes. And then after that, we're going to do alternate nostril breathing, about 5 rounds. We're going to do Kapalabhati, 3 rounds. And then we're going to add in our new pranayamas, Surya Vedanta and Chandra. So the resonance breathing will be inhaling and exhaling an equal ratio. We're going to inhale for 6 seconds and we're going to exhale for 6 seconds. We're going to do this for 8 minutes, which will be 40 breaths. We're going to use the breathing app, which you see right here. And after I press play, the circle is going to expand. And while it expands, you're going to inhale. And then while it gets smaller, you're going to exhale. You can keep your hands on your belly if you like to feel the belly moving as you inhale and exhale. And think about a smooth, even breath, not a deep breath, but a smooth, even breath. And if you feel tension doing this, just rest and pause and just watch the circle moving for a minute or two. And then when you feel ready, join back in. If you can only do a few breaths at a time, do a few breaths at a time and then join back in when you're ready. And if you're not used to doing this kind of a breathing ratio, sometimes your nervous system is going to resist you a little because the nervous system is used to dictating the flow of the breath. And now you're overtaking it and say, this is how I want to breathe. And the nervous system might not be receptive to that immediately. So what we're doing through these practices is we're creating receptivity of the nervous system through gentle breathing. Okay, so I'm going to press play and we're going to go ahead and begin. So you see the ball is getting bigger now. This is our inhalation. And then it gets slower for the exhalation. You can just watch the ball for a moment if you like to before you start breathing. And at this ratio, we're basically breathing 5 breaths per minute. Normally, we breathe somewhere in the area of 14 to 18 breaths per minute. So now we're making it less than half. And this has a very balancing effect on the branches of the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branches. So gazing at the circle, exhaling as it gets smaller, and inhaling as it gets bigger. If you want to keep the hands on the belly, you can. Exhaling as the ball gets smaller. Inhaling as it gets bigger. Carry on. Try to make your breath last for the entire duration of the movement of the circle. And you might notice there's a slight pause at the end of each breath. Very slight. And maybe you feel the diaphragm moving down as you inhale, the diaphragm moving up as you exhale, the diaphragm moving down as you inhale, diaphragm moving up as you exhale. As you inhale, the diaphragm moves down and the belly comes out. As you exhale, the diaphragm goes up, so the belly comes in. See if you can have an inner sense of that happening. This is feeling your inner body, which is called interoception. If you feel comfortable with the rhythm, you can also do this with your eyes closed. That's 4 minutes have passed so far, so we're halfway there. Okay, so this is mindful breathing, so be conscious of the actual flow of your breath. And try to make the inhalation and exhalation smooth and even. So the actual amount of air coming in and the amount of air going out, try to keep that very even and steady. Sometimes you might hear a light hissing noise in the breath, which is also called the ocean breathing or the ocean breath. If that happens naturally, it's okay, but you don't need to try to make a sound in the breath. But sometimes this little bit of a sensation of breathing towards the back of your throat helps to control the flow of the breath. So if you have a hard time with the control of the breath, imagine that as you inhale, you're inhaling towards the back of your throat. And as you exhale from the back of the throat. So the evenness of the breathing, of the cycle of breathing in for 6 seconds and breathing out for 6, is toning for the vagus nerve, helps to improve heart rate variability, and sends messages of balance and rhythmicity to all parts of the body through the nervous system. It's calming, reduces inflammation in the body and in the mind. Okay, that's about 7 minutes so far. 6.5 minutes so far. Just another 1.5 minutes left. So by now, maybe you feel more rhythmicity with the breathing. Just a few more breaths left. And that's all. Let the breathing relax. Good. Okay, good. And now we're going to move into our next practice, which is Nadi Shodhana, or the alternate nostril breathing. This is done by inhaling first through both nostrils, closing the right nostril with your thumb, and exhaling out through your left side. And now we're going to inhale through the left nostril. We're going to close the left nostril with your ring finger, lift your thumb, and exhale out through the right. Stay here and inhale through the right. Change nostrils and exhale out through the left. That's one round. We'll do 5. Inhale through the left. Change and exhale out through the right. Inhale in through the right. Exhale out through the left. So I'm closing the side of the nostril. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. That's 3 rounds. We'll do 2 more. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. One more round. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Rest your hand on your knee. Breathe through both nostrils. Okay. So by now, hopefully, you're feeling pretty calm. And we are going to move into the next practice, which is a cleansing practice. Okay? And this is called Kapalabhati. So Kapalabhati is a abdominal breathing where we're going to pump the abdomen to cause the breath to move. If you've been in the earlier classes, we've covered this already. And if you're new to the class today, it's going to be an energetic exhale out through the nostrils and a relaxed inhale in through the nostrils. So you're going to imagine that you are like blowing out a candle by sniffing out through your nostrils as you exhale, like a sniffing sound. Just like that. And then you relax and you inhale. We're going to do 10 or 15 pumpings. We're going to do 3 rounds with a couple of breaths in between them. And if you need to blow your nose or anything like that before we start this, some people have allergies at this time. You can go ahead and do that. I'm going to do that off camera. And then we will begin. So the last practices that we did, which were balancing for the branches of the nervous system, in particular the resonance breathing, there is quite a lot of research on the resonance breathing that shows how it improves vagal tone and heart rate variability. We can post some of the links to those studies in the caption section of this for people who are interested. So I'll make a note to myself to do that later. And there are interesting studies about loving kindness meditation, improving vagal tone and heart rate variability, chanting on a rosary or repeating mantras and improving heart rate variability and vagal tone, as well as this regulated breathing practices. And the vagus nerve is responsible for managing and controlling levels of inflammation in the body. So when vagal tone is high, then the inflammation levels in the body tend to be lower. And you can see all of these things in this research as well. Okay, so let's now move on to Kapalabhati, the abdominal pumpings. You're going to let your belly relax out as you inhale, and then you can follow along with me for 10 times. We're going to go like this. Okay, and then inhale. And exhale. So if you want to see the movement that my belly is making when I do that, I just move my microphone off to the side. If I was to keep my hands on my abdomen, now my abdomen is relaxed out, and when I take an energetic exhale, my belly comes in, and that's an inhale. Okay, so that's what that breathing practice looks like. It's called Kapalabhati. And it's useful for getting excess phlegm out from the body, as well as it's an energizing breath. So let's do that 2 more rounds. Inhale a breath. We'll try to do 15 pumpings. Begin. Now inhale a long inhale. A long exhale. And then relax the breathing for a moment. This practice should not be done if you happen to be pregnant, or if you have high blood pressure, or if you have a hernia, or have just recently had a hernia surgery. Otherwise, it's okay to do this practice. Okay, let's do another round of 15 pumpings. Inhale. Keep the spine straight, the face relaxed, and begin. That's 15. A long exhale. A long inhale. A long exhale. Now just relax the breathing for a moment. Sit quietly. And we'll do one more round. Inhale. And begin. Long exhalation. Inhale. Exhale. Relax the breathing and sit in a meditative state for a moment. Okay. The next two practices we'll be doing are called Surya Vedanta and Chandra Vedana. We're going to discuss the benefits of breathing on the right and left nostrils after we complete the practice. And please hold any questions that you have for the end of the session. That's when I'll answer all of the questions. So for the Surya Vedana, we're going to breathe from the right side to the left side 5 times. In Chandra Vedana, we're going to breathe from the left side to the right side 5 times. Surya is the Sanskrit word for sun. So this is the warming channel, the right nostril, or the right channel is the warming or solar energy. And the left channel is the cooling lunar or moon energy. Chandra means moon. So please close your left nostril with the ring finger of your right hand. Inhale through your right nostril. And exhale out through the left side. And then we repeat. Inhale through the right nostril. Exhale out the left nostril. We're breathing for 6 seconds. Inhale through the right side. Exhale out the left side. Last one. Inhale through the right side. Exhale out through the left side. Rest your hand down on your knee. Breathe through both nostrils. Notice the sensation now of the breath through the nostrils. And now we will go in the opposite direction. Please place your right thumb on your right nostril. Inhale through your left nostril. Change and exhale out through the right. Inhale in through your left nostril. Exhale out through the right. Inhale in through the left. Exhale out through the right. Inhale in through the left. Exhale out through the right. Last one. Inhale in through the left. Exhale out through the right. Rest your hand on your knee. Breathe through both nostrils. Notice the change of airflow in the insides of the nostrils. So let's conclude our practice with the same concluding breathing practice we do each week, which is the Pracchardana vidaranabhyam Pranayama. The Pracchardana vidaranabhyam Pranasya is a sutra from Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which says one way to control the mind is to extend the exhale and then pause at the end of your exhalation. And so what we're going to do is we're going to inhale for 6 seconds, and you're going to try to extend your exhalation for 12 seconds. You're going to pause for a moment. You're going to inhale for 6, try to extend the exhalation for 12, pause for a moment, and then do it one final time. So I'll talk us through it. Inhaling through both nostrils. Exhale for 12 seconds. Now pause for a moment. Inhale for 6. Exhale for 12. If you can't make it to 12, make it as far as you can. Pause for a moment. Inhale to the back of the throat for 6. Exhale from the back of the throat for 12. Pause for a moment. Excuse me. And breathe. Sit quietly for a moment. Okay. And to conclude the pranayama practice, we will chant a short Sanskrit prayer, which says, "May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from disease. May all look to good in others. May none suffer from sorrow." Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Sarve santu niramayaha. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Okay. So that is our pranayama practice for this week. And I'll recap the practices that we did. We did resonance breathing for 8 minutes. That was 40 breaths. We did alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana 5 times. We did Kapalabhati 3 rounds of 15 pumpings. We did Surya Vedanta 5 times, Chandra Vedana 5 times, and then we did the extension of the exhalation 3 times. So this is a nice complete practice. You can try this for the next week. It will be already put into the description section of this video, so you can follow along with it. And now we will move on to the discussion for this week. So, as we said, the right side of the body is the solar channel in the yogic tradition, and the left side is the lunar channel. The solar channel is related in some traditions to the goddess who creates and maintains the entire manifestation. The earth, for example, the universe, is associated with the feminine energy. And the lunar channel is related to consciousness, which observes, which is present. In some traditions, those are reversed, and the right side will be considered to be the masculine energy, and the left side will be considered to be the feminine energy. But in certain Hatha Yoga traditions, it's opposite. The right side is the feminine or creative goddess energy, and the left side is the lunar consciousness or Shiva energy. So the right side is going to be related to, or the right channel will be related to, things which are active, such as digestion, work, the ability to concentrate or to quantify or measure things. And the left channel is going to be related to rest, sleep, relaxation, seeing the totality things, or seeing things in a holistic fashion. In Ayurveda, the term pitta or fire would be used to describe the energy of the right channel, and kapha or water would be used for the left channel. And the alternate nostril breathing is called Nadi Shodhana. So Nadi means channel, and Shodhana means purification. And there are many, many different types and classifications of Nadi Shodhana. So through these breathing practices, we're balancing the energy or the flow of prana in the right and left channels, and bringing harmony to the system. And ultimately, the highest levels of the Hatha Yoga are to unite prana and apana, and to unite the flows of energy, flow prana moving in the Surya and Chandra or Ida and Pingala channels or nadis. And through uniting them, we transcend all the pairs of opposites. So like hot and cold, good and bad, male and female, all of these pairs of opposites and the duality that we live in, that we measure ourselves by, that we judge things by, that set us apart from things, we're trying to unite all of those. And so like our breath is coming and going all the time. This is one pair of opposite. So by balancing the prana and apana and uniting them, when the breath ceases, which sometimes it does in deep states of meditation or deep states of concentration, the breath pauses, and then we're just living or existing in pure awareness for that moment. So when we consciously can unite the coming and going of the breath, or prana and apana, we transcend the pair of opposites, all coming and going, and then we experience unity consciousness. So this is one of the reasons given, one of the many reasons given behind why we do the Nadi Shodhana practices, the alternate nostril breathing, and why we're trying to balance first prana and apana, and then eventually unite them within the deeper practices. So prana causes all things to move, and it's also the force that allows things to continue moving. So whether it's the movement of electrons winking in and out of existence around the nucleus of an atom, whether it's the force of gravity, mass, inertia, prana is said to be the underlying cause that, because it exists, allows all other energy to exist and then turn into material things. So all energy is organized in different ways, and that allows for the diversity of the experience and expression of things that we see in the world around us. So this is the yogic view on what is all this stuff that we see. How does the universe keep itself held in an orderly fashion, that the planets are rotating in an orderly fashion and the heavens are cycling the ways that they do, and that all life forms are behaving in particular patterns that allow them to exist until they no longer exist. What is the underlying cause that allows for the organization, the maintenance, and the holding together of our universe? And prana is one of the things which is explained as being that organizing force. So prana in us is an organizing force as well. So one of the ways that prana is also coming in and out to organize us is through the breath. We talked in earlier classes about how we aren't independent breathing beings, but that the biosphere that we live in is breathing us. Because of the change of pressure of our lungs and the outer environment, the biosphere is pushing air into us, and then we're pushing it back out throughout our lives. We are being breathed by the biosphere, breathed by the world that we live in. So if we live in harmony, or we try to create internal conditions to be in harmony with the biosphere that we live in, the other people, the animals, and the planet, then the individual process of our breathing will also become gentle and easeful. And these conditions are created not only by practicing pranayama, but by eating in a healthy manner at the right time, by getting enough sleep, by exercising, meditating, managing stress, and spending time with friends or people that we support us. So all of these conditions are important for living in harmony with the biosphere. Now, what is the biosphere made up of? It's made up of the 5 elements. And the 5 elements are earth, water, fire, air, and space. We're going to talk a little about them this week, and we'll talk a little bit more about them over the next week after that, because it's a huge topic. So the first thing to know is that prana is said to be the cause of all of these 5 elements. And the elements are called the mahabhutas, or the great elements. And they're the things that are providing substance to the universe. And they make up everything that we see in the world, and also everything that we don't see. All of these are going to be made of the elements. To start with, in our body, we can look at the 5 elements as having earth, which is going to be grounded and stable. So the thing which is grounded and stable in our body are our bones. So our bones are very earthy. And the next element is water. And water, of course, flows, and it transports, and it provides nutrients. It gives rise to the birth of things. So our blood and our lymph and the liquids of sexual reproduction, such as semen and the ovum, these are all watery in nature. So these are all creative things and transportive things. Our blood is 70% water. Our planet is 70% water. So there's this connection, of course, between our extended physical body of the earth being very watery, and also our physical body being very watery. So with the water nature, blood, lymph, semen, ovum, phlegm, things like that. Our digestion is fire. Also, the ability to see things, for things to have form, is because of light and of the fire in light. So digestion and the ability to see is fire within our bodies, within our being. Our breath, of course, is airy. That's air coming and going. And our mind is filled with space. That's where thoughts are going to occur. So within our body, we have the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. And these are typified or exemplified in our bones, our blood, and all the other watery parts of the blood, digestion, air, circulating as oxygen, and space, which is our mind and thoughts. So in the Hindu philosophical traditions and in the yogic traditions, prana is the impulse to movement. It's the energy that makes things move. It exists before the elements do, and it's the initiator of the elements to take form from subtle to gross. So when we're working with pranayama and we're working with being conscious about how we breathe and how we move energy, we're also helping to balance these 5 pranas, or these 5 elements within the body. So last week we talked about the 5 pranas: prana, apana, vyana, udana, and samana, and how these are physiological functions. And these are also linked to the 5 elements. So when we feel that, and we're going to discuss that at length next week, but very generally speaking and basically speaking, because we only have about 5 minutes left and I'd like to answer the questions now, since prana is energy and causes things to move, there are times when we feel depleted, when we feel we need to build our energy back up. And so when we need to recharge ourselves, we can do that not only through breathing and through pranayama, but through the prana, which is contained within the different elements. Okay, so for example, we can recharge our earth element by spending time in nature. I live in New York City. There's not a lot of nature nearby, but there are trees nearby, so I can hug a tree if I feel like it. Or sometimes I can go to the river and I can see the river flowing by. This is really actually more recharging by water. Walking on grass is a wonderful way to recharge. I don't have grass nearby except if I go to a park. Or you can hug a tree again. And these are ways to receive earth energy if you live in a city. If you live in the countryside, of course, not a problem. So this is how we recharge the earth element. And also by eating foods which are grounding and warm, easy to digest. Next, we can recharge the water element in us by drinking enough water throughout the day. If you can spend time near a waterfall, a lake, a river, or the ocean, this is a great way to recharge the water element. And as I said, we have the Hudson and the East River nearby in New York. So whenever I get the chance, I'll go for a walk or I'll bike over to the river and watch the currents rushing by. And I don't have a lot of time to do that, but I do that on occasion. We recharge our fire element through either gazing at the rising sun in the morning before it comes too much over the surface. Otherwise, it will burn your retinas. But you can recharge by watching the first early morning light of the sun coming over the horizon. Spending some time in the sunlight, just a few minutes a day, can be enough. Eating warm cooked food is another way to energize our fire. Drinking hot water is another great thing to do. Open your windows for a few minutes every day if you're sitting in a room where there's not a lot of fresh air. Because when you open the windows, not only does air circulate in, but sunlight comes in too, because windows are going to filter out maybe up to 50%, sometimes more, sometimes less, of the sun. So open the windows, let the sun come in, let the air come in, and this recharges the fire element. Now, we recharge the air element through breathing fresh air. If you live in a polluted city, then it's good in the morning time to do pranayama practices because that's when there's the least amount of pollution in the air. Open your windows if you can, if it's not too cold or not too dusty. And as well, through pranayama, of course, we're recharging the air element. It's good to do this early in the morning because our organs are following a clock. Meaning the internal organs. And so, for example, if you're an early morning person, between 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. is when the lungs are at their strongest. So the yogis would typically get up around 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. and do their pranayama and meditation to strengthen the lung element. I generally get up at around 3 a.m. and by 4 or 4:15, I'm doing my breathing practices to strengthen that. So in the last minute we have the space element is related to our mind and our thoughts. So just like we live in an ocean of air that we're breathing in, we also live in an ocean of thoughts. And we're breathing in other people's thoughts all the time. So we can get thrown off easily by people, by the media that we expose ourselves to. So be careful of the people you spend time with. Try to spend time with people who are positive and support you. And try to expose yourself to not too much negative media. It's good to be informed, but don't become overly negative or distraught about the situations of the world. We can't control all of those things, but what we can do is seek to control our mind, our perception of things, and how we wish to be an influence in the world around us as well. So, space is mental and it's also physical. So provide both of those things for yourself to balance your space element. Okay, so that's all the time we have today for the discussion. Thank you very much for joining. I'm going to stay on now for a few more minutes to answer questions, and we will continue with the discussion of the elements in next week's class. So feel free to ask any questions you have now, and we will continue next week with more practices and more discussion. For everyone who's signing off, Om Shanti, Om Peace. Thank you so much for joining. I really enjoy this weekly class every Friday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I enjoy teaching this and speaking about it and being with you all. So thank you again for joining. Okay, so now for the questions. Can you do the breathing exercise if you have high blood pressure but it's controlled by medication? Tracy, yes, you should be able to. You can check in with your doctor, but all the practices that I'm teaching have scientific research done on them. So I'm not doing anything which would be dangerous for you. And pretty much all of these practices have been shown to help balance blood pressure. So I'd say for the most part, yes, it's fine. If you're not too sure, please check with your doctor. And let's see, what time do you go to sleep that you can get up so early? I go to sleep at around 9 p.m. That's when I go to sleep. New York City is full of nature. That's true. It's everywhere. You can find it around here. Punit wanted to know, is there specific pranayama for fat reduction for specific parts of the body? So, Punit, for fat reduction, it's actually very difficult to reduce fat in specific places. We reduce fat in a sort of a holistic fashion when we are getting our heart rate up to a certain degree for a certain amount of time. So I believe up to the first 30 minutes of physical exercise, we are burning calories, and then for the next 30 minutes, we're burning fat at around the hour mark. And I believe the ratio that they use is 220 beats per minute minus your age. No, it's a little less than that. Maybe it's, because I think I'm supposed to be at about 130 beats per minute. It's 180 beats per minute minus your age is what you want your heart rate to be at for about an hour to begin to burn fat. Now, I'm not an exercise physiologist, so you should check on that. But that's what I believe the ratio is. And then you have to be, like, really to lose weight or to reduce fat, you have to be very careful with your diet. Is a certain part is exercise, but the most important part is what you're eating in combination with how much you're moving. And can pranayama help with that? Yes, it can help. But also, you have to exercise and you have to eat well. Okay, the translation into Arabic and into Spanish, I would love that. I'll see if they can help out with that. Gabrielle, you started with a headache and now you feel very good with energy. I'm thrilled to hear that. Thank you for saying that. Yes, the biosphere concept is really interesting. We live in a biosphere. Everything that sustains us is in our biosphere. Our food, our air, our water. The water of the biosphere is constantly recycling. So we live in a pattern of nature, and the biosphere is our extended body. And if we think of the world around us as our extended body and we treat our body well, we'll also treat nature well as well. Okay, so let's see. There's not a lot of questions this week, which is great to hear. That means that everyone's happy with what we're doing. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you joining. Oh, here's some more questions. How to bring balance in the 5 elements we discussed today. The way to bring balance to the 5 elements is basically through all of the things we discussed, which is through food, through sleep, exercise, meditation, and spending time in the company of people who either support you, encourage you, love you, or are also seeking truth. Those are the best way to balance the elements. The name of the app that we used is called The Breathing App. It's free on iTunes and free on Google Play. It's an app that I developed with Deepak Chopra and my friend Sergey Veryachev. So you can download that and breathe along with it. Bhuta Shuddhi is a very good purification practice to do with mantras. Maybe I won't go into that now because it's a little bit complicated, but definitely a good thing to do. Margaret, can you do breathing if you have damage in the cerebellum? Should be okay. If you feel any tension or you have headaches or anything like that, then please stop. But if you feel good from doing them, then it's okay. That's generally speaking the measurement. Of course, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give any medical advice. But if the practices are feeling good for you and you feel better when you're done, then it's okay. If you feel worse when you're done, then it's not okay, and things need to be adjusted. Paula, if you're yawning when you're breathing in, that just means that you're probably tired and your body is trying to balance itself. And Amira, is it okay to do more Surya and Chandra and bhedana than we did today? Yes, absolutely. We're doing minimal rounds right now, but you can go ahead and do more rounds as you feel comfortable. Up to 10 rounds is fine to do. Okay, so one way that you can connect with people, if you don't have folks around you to connect, is, and you don't have support groups that you're working with, you can also find spiritual sangha online these days. There's a lot going on, either on YouTube or on Instagram, or in communities like that, where you can find people who are doing similar things, and look to the spiritual support groups that might be around you. There's a lot online, and now with COVID and the lockdowns, people are connecting more and more in that type of a way. Honestly, the main way that I'm connecting with people these days is only through social media, through Instagram and Zoom and Facebook, and not Facebook, and Instagram and Zoom, and these YouTube classes as well. So there's quite a lot of support can be found out there, and it can be very positive when we have to practice social distancing as well. Okay, so let's begin to wrap it up now. And the last question, prana and pranayama are not interchangeable words. Prana means energy or breath. Pranayama is made of two words, prana and ayama. Ayama means to lengthen, control, regulate, expand, or extend. So with pranayama, we are regulating, expanding, extending, controlling the prana, or our individual energy and breath. Okay. Let's see. Great. More about breathing in the polyvagal system. Yes, we can discuss more about that as time goes by. There is a lot of good stuff on the internet about that. You can look to the work of Dr. Stephen Porges, and his work on polyvagal theory and breathing is very interesting. There's a lot out there. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a good weekend and stay safe. Om Shanti.